Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Discussions in Education. Discussins. I like discussing stuff. Anyway, let's see. Today's episode, another monologue. No one else here with me. I gotta stop calling them monologues. They're not. Another private rant. I don't know. Captain's log. I like Captain's log. Anyway, yeah. Why am I making this episode? Well, let's start off with a couple things. I don't want to get into crazy stuff right off the bat, so I'll just kind of give you guys some updates. So I've been doing jujitsu now for about a month. Yeah, about a month now. The first week, after the first week, I kind of messed up. Had to go get some massage done. Today, kind of messed up. My little lower back was tweaked a little. I was trying to take it easy. Then I ended up partnering with somebody who was 45 pounds heavier than me and got tossed around a little bit, got yanked around quite a bit. He was another kind of close to beginner. And so, I don't know any of you out there who know this, but as far as jiu-jitsu goes, and most martial arts, when you're sparring with someone, if you're a white belt, the biggest fear you have is matching with someone who knows some techniques and knows them real well, but doesn't have 100% control because they can kind of jerk you out. And he was being super careful and everything like that, and I thought it was too. But what I did not count on was adrenaline, which dulled a lot of the pain during the match. And then afterwards, I'm like, "Oh, hello, lower back, you are tweaked." He got me in a couple good holds. Let's just say learning has been fun, but I'm really looking forward to learning more. So I really like trying to pay attention during class because I'm like, wait, I don't know 3 moves to do this, but most other people that I'm sparring with do. So super exciting in that extent. But I have absolutely loved it. It's been great. A lot of folks who recommended it to me and said I should get into it. Thank you. Actually, it's kind of funny. This last week I was getting over a cold, and it was kind of still hanging on up to this Monday. And Monday I decided, I'm going to skip class just to make sure I get better. Tuesday I just felt like crud, just exhausted all day. Wednesday was the same thing, but it's that same time of that same dilemma in working out everybody faces, which is like, okay. I'm not really sick. Do I just go work out even though I'm exhausted? And went, trained for a bit and then rolled for a bit, and then it was crazy. Just the energy switch in my body went on. I was like, oh shit, yeah, you're still alive. Let's keep this going. Thursday felt great. So it's nice to know that my body is getting back into the oh no, you need to work out again. Even I'm not doing it a lot. I only do it twice a week, mainly because I think that's all my body right now can handle. But also that's all I've got time for these days. But yeah, no, that is going great. In my administrative class, started a new one, new teacher, somebody I've known for a while. I've met him a couple times before, just in education in San Jose. You get to know people who push a lot of, positive work in the community. And so I've met him a couple times before, and so it's just nice seeing him again. And the focus of this class is ethics and school leadership, which is really interesting. Been talking about kind of just professional learning communities for teachers and why they see it as important, which, to some extent I agree with a lot of it. And then I definitely have a lot of reservations, but we're reading a new book specifically called Ethics for School Administrators, and it's kind of interesting. I used to be a philosophy major before I became a literature major in college, and so it's been a long time since I've read the ethical dilemma books, the ones that pose a question and you're like, okay, so what should I do? Wait, there's no answer. Oh, what? But then what do I do? And I was talking about that with my wife, and she was like, yeah, because you have to figure it out. Every situation's different. And I was like, yeah, but I just want an answer sometimes. It was just funny, just because just being kind of more forcefully reminded that, like, oh shit, yeah, there are a lot of questions out there that people don't have answers to, and there's a lot of situations that are completely different depending on the scenario. So, good little reminder. As far as any other updates, I let all my students know. So, my wife is having a son, another boy. He is coming. Yeah, we are having a boy, but I ain't doing shit for work right now as far as making him come along. He is due in May, and so I did announce to my students that I would be out of the classroom in May and June. I did not tell them that I'm looking for an administrative job, and but we'll see how that one goes. If I actually get an administrative job, I mean, that is the hope and the plan as far as things like that go. But no, I mean, trying to think of any other updates right now that would not really. And as far as like serious issues going on, I mean, all the same serious issues, all the same concerns. I don't know. It's just it's a weird time right now. A lot of the podcasts I listen to, a lot of the folks I've been talking with, they constantly bring up this idea of the freedom of speech issues that have come up a lot recently. And I've got friends on both sides of the aisle as far as that stands with recent stuff. I definitely have, and myself lean towards, like, the punch a Nazi in the mouth. But I guess for for me, I definitely like to consider more the, like, well, are they actually an identified Nazi? Which in one case they were. Like a lot of my friends were very, very pro Berkeley protest. Which I was fine with the, I guess, protest aspect. You're more than welcome. But I mean, having read some of that individual's work and having listened to his crazy arguments, I wondered how productive towards the ends of what they want that is. How much more entertaining it would have been if literally they had a booth outside that was just the actual information versus disinformation pamphlets that you just pass to everyone, and smiled and nodded, and because I mean, he makes a lot of for those of you unaware, the Berkeley protests were Milo Yiannopoulos, who, I mean, I know the conservative side has now kind of thrown out with his the surfacing the 16-year-old girl who found the video of him protecting the rights of pedophiles to essentially molest children. So, which is interesting, and way to go for that little girl. I mean, that's kind of what I would like to see more on the progressive side, like very targeted, clear forethought in counteraction, where it's, I understand the emotion, like 100% I do. And people are going to be like, well, you're a straight male, you don't understand. And yeah, like, I won't understand as far as that aspect goes. I'm not scared at night. Like, I've never had anyone target me because of my sexual orientation or claim I'm less of something because of it. But as far as how I always think, which is that, like, yes, your emotions should definitely play a heavy role in your decision making. Like, you should acknowledge them. You shouldn't ignore what your gut is telling you. At the same time, for me, it's always about the end goal. Like, how much and what is going to further my ultimate end goal, which would be a more open and just society. So, I mean, that really is my end goal. Like, open as in, I feel like people should be able to have more options and more, like, very honestly libertarian as far as that goes. Just in that the fact that, like, yeah, everyone should be open and every opportunity should be had, but we also have to admit right from the get-go that not everyone starts off with the same opportunity. So helping those who do need assistance. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the weird thing. And I mean, and it's also weird as teachers, because of all roles out there, 100%, the role in which an individual's right to speak is curtailed the most is in school. I mean, where else do you get to tell someone that? I mean, okay, maybe the courtroom. Definitely, courtroom would probably be the next step up, or prison, jail, any sort of custody. That might be the area where that freedom of speech is also negatively affected. CIA black site. A Maoist prison. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, yes, there are plenty of examples out there, but like as far as in the United States, in education, I mean, quite honestly, like a lot of it is of silencing student voices so that we can get stuff done, whatever that might be. The curriculum, classroom expectations, or just attempting to teach them social norms. So, I mean, it's interesting just to see this discussion going on. Definitely, I mean, I've talked with a lot of my friends, and what has been nice is seeing way more civic engagement than I've seen in a long time. Maybe since Obama first ran, as far as that goes. I mean, just amongst my friends. I mean, even when Obama was running, I mean, obviously when Obama was president, a lot of folks on the left and even some folks on the right kind of sat on their hands and just gave him a lot of passes as far as like his policies. In this instance, I definitely kind of agree with how Joe Rogan often describes it in his podcast, which is that he was an excellent statesman, but terrible for policies. And people will point out, economy, et cetera, but ignoring the fact that he was head of state during a lot of just like the anti-whistleblower stuff, the amount of drone strikes, just, the the pipelines, which definitely Dakota Access started under him. I mean, it's a lot of things where you do question as far as that goes. But, Jesus, I totally lost my train of thought. I'm like trying to defend my opinions here, and I forgot what I started talking about. I mean, okay, so obviously all of this revolves around freedom of speech, but one of the interesting things is just how little in school we work to encourage that sort of engagement. In fact, there's actually a teaching so a expectation for the teaching profession. California teachers have this guideline. There's 6 main areas, and each area breaks it down. But for one of the areas, an actual expectation is that our behavior does not interrupt the workings of the district, which is interesting. I mean, that's an actual expectation. Those standards are expectations for all California teachers. They are part of any public school teacher's job requirement. You're expected to follow those standards. Often, some sort of those standards is what you are actually evaluated on if you are in an evaluation cycle, or if you're a non-tenured teacher, so temporary or probationary teacher. In those standards is a requirement for us as teachers to make sure the district continues working smoothly. So even if, as an educator, you see something in a district where you feel, and you could probably gather a lot of evidence, that it is a practice that does not help students, it does not help teachers, in fact, it can actively hurt the community, even if you stand up for that, if you were to bring that issue up with students and raise their concern about it in order to kind of bring a message out to the community, you can experience pretty severe, like, curtailing of your rights as as an individual in that job, whether for that stated reason or for something else that an administrator can find on you. It becomes really difficult to teach student civic engagement. They want to start with these broad things. Like, I mean, a lot of teachers right now, they won't admit it, but secretly, if they're trying to teach civic engagement to their kids, Trump is a wonderful thing, because it's something that all the kids, the way he speaks on Twitter or to the public, some of the policies that he's pushed, policies that the Congress has pushed through. I mean, a lot of them are horrendous as far as individual liberties and civil rights go. And so, and people are going to be like, oh, but which ones? Well, if you really want, you can email me. I'll send you a message and explain it all. But, I mean, come on, the travel ban, really, where the president himself and members of a cabinet specifically mentioned Muslims and our First Amendment right of freedom of religion. So that directly contradicting, I mean, come on, that was idiotic on his part. People are flipping out and they're saying, well, Obama did the same thing. Well, guess what? Obama was smarter at being sketch than Trump is. All right. He's super obvious about it. Obama did a lot of stuff on the side. You had to search more to hear about it from Obama. He wasn't throwing Muslims out there and saying like, oh, we're going to ban them. Like, God, anyway. And again, like, I mean, if you're listening to my actual argument, I'm saying, yeah, Obama was corrupt and wrong in that instance. And in many other instances, but obviously I don't have his security briefing, so possibly he had a reason, but he wasn't wrong in that he did not mention religion at all, thereby not violating our First Amendment right. Crazy. And if Trump and his cabinet were just able to do that, there would be a lot of things that, the liberal, progressive level, whatever you want to say, social justice warriors, however you want to describe them, I mean, they would get angry about it, but he wouldn't give them the hammer to hit him in the back of the head with. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm going to say terrible things to you, but first, here's this weapon to get me. And you're like, be smart about it. Be smart about it. And that is something, unfortunately, he's not fully grasping as of yet. I mean, actually, I was just reading an article. Now, see, damn it, everything is going back to Trump. But I was just reading an article about how, when Trump was pushing Keystone and Dakota Access and signed those executive orders, his big thing was like, they are going to buy American. And then it just came out today that no, but they are actually exempt from that rule. They don't have to buy American. They can use all the materials they already had. This on top of, I don't know if God, man, this is terrible. See, here's this weird part, which is that, like, the only news I'm really concerned about is news. Okay, obviously I'm very interested in civil rights as far as that goes, but, obviously since this last election just showed a huge part of the country that another huge part has been largely ignored, I've been very curious about how Trump is dealing with the issues of his voting base, mine workers, what's generally known as, more blue-collar style workers, just because. I mean, that is something. I've got a lot of relatives who are definitely hardworking physical labor folks, brilliant. I mean, they know way more about cars and shit than I will ever know, just hands down. But I'm just curious as to, like, how his policies are affecting them. And, I mean, again, the pipeline's not having to buy American. I think today or yesterday there was the news that retirement benefits for mine workers just didn't pass Congress. It's just, one thing after another where I'm like, well, it's like we as a country backed folks into an area where they felt desperate They made a desperate action, and I'm curious, as Trump is slowly making their lives more and more desperate, what their next response is going to be. People are like, oh, just, let them suffer. And I definitely have those days where I'm just like, oh, God, just, you voted it in, you live with it. But at the same time, I'm a goddamn educator. Like, my career choice is one in which I am concerned about the care, well-being, and safety of people other than myself. And seeing people go through the things that they're going through right now, at the hands of someone they trusted or hoped would create something different for them, is depressing. And then at the same time, I want to throttle anyone who keeps telling me to vote as a Democrat or Republican, because I'm like, I hate your parties. Like, I do. I became a Democrat because of Sanders this last time around. I thought, he would be an incredibly positive thing, and he was knocked out by Clinton. Some say by nefarious means, others say no, he just lost. I think there's that meme recently of him receiving more of the popular vote in a state, but somehow Hillary getting most of the delegates, and kind of taking a jab at them, and the jab, like a lot of the folks are bringing against Trump and his winning delegates, but Hillary winning more of the popular. Just an interesting thing, and always like to stir up shit everywhere, I guess, as far as it goes out there. But I don't know. I mean, it's really depressing to see, nationwide people voting constantly against their best interest. And then the weird part is seeing that micro country within our classrooms, and really trying to push kids to consider the consequences of their actions, the consequences of their decisions, and really getting them to say, okay, well, you know what? In this instance, I'm okay with the consequence. I want to embrace it. That's been a real big thing this year for my students. They've definitely acted more like there are no consequences. Part of that is the current education system, but I think part of it also is, I feel like a large part of our country does to some extent mirror those who are in charge of it. So if there is a roadblock, but still civility at the top levels, I feel, tend to be more civil. And who knows? I could be completely wrong. I mean, I won't really know until I see the kids next year. This is just this year. Pretty consistently, you've seen behavior issues on just because of the stress. I think a lot of it is definitely community stress based, but just a lot. Maybe we're just hype. I don't. Maybe it's not. Okay. Let's throw my point away, because I'm realizing as I'm explaining it, I'm like, wait a second. Like, it could be that now I'm just hypersensitive to it because Trump's president. It could be, just a weird year. It could be the community pressures. Like, guess what? When a community is stressed out and worried about something, it trickles down to the kids, and the kids get stressed out and worried. And when you're stressed out and worried, it's harder to follow direction. It's hot. That's why a lot of folks are like, well, why didn't he just do what the cop is saying? Like, I don't know. It's hard to think with a gun pointed at you. Seriously. I mean, my original point was going to be that I felt that our students were very much mimicking those they saw as leaders in this country. But who actually knows at this point? I would have to do a lot more research, and I'm not going to, because I'm just here shooting the shit with you guys. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as everything is going in this country, I'm saying a lot this episode. I apologize to everybody listening, but well, it happens. One of the big concerns, I guess, that I have moving forward, hopefully into some sort of educational leadership position, is a huge concern, and I brought this up since the beginning about what our actual goal in education is. I know in my program, throughout the program, there's definitely been that constant, hey, you as a principal have to sit down with your staff. You have to come up with a vision that you can all agree to, and then you need to take that vision to the community and get it changed again and come up with a vision that everyone can agree to, and then you can all work towards. And my question is when are we actually going to do that on a federal level? Because we're not going to agree with everything as far as education goes. You know, some people will feel that leaving out a moral education, whether that's religious based or any type other than school rules, is an inequity, an injustice. Some will feel that leaving out that understanding as a good Democratic citizen or a good Republican citizen, sorry, I mean that in actually the sense of the actual government and not in the parties, but being a good citizen in general requires questioning authority and questioning, but looking for facts and value. And they'll feel that if that, encouragement of questioning is left out of education, then kids are getting a disservice done to them. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different views, but I feel like overall, largely as a society, there are some basic things we can all agree on. I feel like we've lost that emphasis, not only politically on a national level, but it's trickled down into every single branch of everything. And schools are feeling it the most. Because to some extent, obviously, the big policy set forth by Congress and the Secretary of Education and the President, those are our mission. So, for example, when George W. Bush Jr. came out with No Child Left Behind, right, that was our mission, not to leave any child behind ever. But how it altered, just because even that was not clearly defined. And then the rest of the mission got really messed up of like, well, no child left behind. And if you leave a child behind, we're going to punish you a lot so that more children will probably be left behind. And then we're going to come and take the power out of your hands and we'll make sure no children are left behind, except for then the government, the state or federal government is more directly failing kids. So it was an interesting thing, but we haven't, I think, in a long time really considered exactly what our end goal is in education. I think we're still clinging to colleges as if they have some like amazing secret meaning, and people, constantly point out like, well, you'll make more money if you go to college. But that is not 100% true, and kids, unfortunately, these days have a lot of access to that very obvious lie, information that counters that fact. Now, it's always amusing hearing those arguments when they're like, oh, well, so-and-so didn't go to college and they didn't even finish high school and they're a multimillionaire now, millionaire now. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that kid was also tinkering with stuff every day, every evening, every weekend. They were playing with this, or they were figuring in that, or they were eating right and practicing, or trying to just learn more techniques, or they were learning about, this style of machining or, coding, whatever it might be. And then I asked them what they're doing, and they're like, well, I slept until 10, and then I played video games until 3, and then it's amusing seeing that, where I'm like, well, you're looking at one part of the story, and I feel like that's kind of where America's at right now. We're all looking at one part of the story without even attempting to grasp the whole. See, there it is again, damn it. But that is a very depressing trend. And it's a trend I'd love to see change, but I don't think you can, we talk a lot about grassroots movements, amongst, teachers, but also just in general. And I don't know if this can be a grassroots movement. It's the same thing with PLCs. So we were talking about that, which is they are important professional learning communities. They're essentially turning teachers into small groups of teachers that then reflect on everything they do, and they meet and they research and they talk and they reflect again, and then they plan. And so, there's this continuous cycle of learning amongst a small group of teachers who tend to be more consistent at a school over a long period of time. And my point is that, yeah, teachers can do that. They can do that on their own time. That's great. It's like, but if you want that to be a standard in the community, to some extent, once it's decided, it has to come from the top as well, because the people in charge can make it hellish to accomplish your goal if they're not behind you. So, this is a major ramble. I apologize. I don't know where my brain's at today. I'm kind of hopping there and back and everywhere all at once. But as far as it goes, I wish education could have a better focus. Whether that decision's kicked out of the state level and the states really spend some time thinking about it. But I also think that it needs to be a overhaul of the system once that new missive, vision, mission statement, whatever it might be, is decided upon. Because if our goal is to make sure every student achieves, that just means passing tests or getting good grades. Like, that's an easy one. I can just change the standards and shift it down. If the expectation is creating lifelong learners, then that would completely change the education system. If anybody left school still interested in something, it's probably because you were already interested in it beforehand. Very rarely, in a lot of the experiences that I hear, do schools introduce something of interest and then allow a student to pursue and grow in that. Now, obviously, I'm surrounded by people who are like English teachers or, so, math teachers, science teachers. So obviously, you probably definitely succeeded and found something interesting in school. But I also feel a lot of people find things outside of school, and then that's how they learn to pursue them. If our goal is to really create a lifelong learner, closing down, shutting down avenues of inquiry in a classroom is not the way to do it. But teachers are, again, restricted by standards. So it would require a overhaul of standards. It would require overhaul of individual district level initiatives. I personally think it's worth it. I think it's something that needs to get done, but I don't know how. Other than attempting to move up high enough where I can then attempt to get it done. But it's a very complex issue that does not have a concise solution, which is unfortunate. And I guess that kind of brings us back to that original, my updates for everyone listening about ethical leadership. That idea. Wow, Jesus. You can really tell I'm at like an English major here where I'm just like, and let's bring this whole episode full of me bullshitting somehow back to the main theme. About ethical leadership and how sometimes there's not a right or wrong answer and sometimes it's a struggle. Oh, that was terrible. I apologize to everybody listening. Yeah, so that right there tells me that mentally I may not be as 100% present as I need to be for this, but I'm still going to put this out there because why not? One other update. Me and some of my friends, myself, me. Yeah. Anyway, we were talking recently about starting a new podcast called Dad's Podcast. I don't know. We'll probably come up with a better name because there are some very smart people in this group. Not me. I just like rambling. But started talking about making a podcast for dads and the challenges and the fun stuff. And I'm sure something like that already exists, except for ultimately ours will be different and probably better for the people who like that type of different thing. I am far too lazy to go find an actual podcast by dads, but this one we'll try to push out to you. I don't know when it'll come out. I know that I'll probably have to buy the larger plan because I know a simple 45-minute episode with the three gentlemen in question would be a ridiculously stupid expectation. I feel like we got some talkers amongst us. Mainly me. I like hearing my voice a lot and then forcing everyone else to listen to it. But no, I mean, we'd have a good time, and I can see us kind of getting into it, into a groove and talking for quite a while. So I'll probably have to buy the next step up, which will be exciting and fun as far as speaker goes. But I really am going to try within the next week or two to do another podcast with either some coworkers or some friends, because it's been a while since I just sat and talked with someone and shot the shit. It's my preferred way of living life. I enjoy talking with people, ergo a teacher, and soon a teacher leader. But, I bet if I went back through this whole thing and counted all my uhs, it would drive me insane. Anyway, as far as who I'll end up talking with in the next week or two, I don't know. I think next weekend is what I'm going to try to convince my other friends to get in on this. And I don't want to mention their names yet because I don't know if they want to go by pseudonyms or superhero names or whatever it might be. I don't have a superhero name. Just Tony Alberts. That's just what I go by. But, damn it, there it is again. Yeah. So I'm going to stop it here. Thank you if you stayed through this whole thing and listened. If you have any ideas for a topic that I haven't talked about, or you just like hearing me talk about random stuff, definitely leave a comment, message, etc. If you're like, screw that, you actually go out and do some damn research and find something interesting to talk about, then fine, I can do that. I really need to avoid the monologue episodes, but I do enjoy them. They kind of give me a chance to reflect on how things are going. So anyway, until next time, I will talk to you later. Thank you for listening to another episode of Discussions in Education.